Why did a Khoi activist group walk over 1,000 kilometers on foot? Do South African laws discriminate against the Khoi? Why do the Khoi consider themselves different from colored people? And what do they want from government? What time is it? It's question time. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Mpho Tsedu. My guest today, Edward Mafadza, is the Acting Chief Executive Officer at the CRL Rights Commission. Professor Pitika Ntuli is a poet, a writer, an academic as well. And joining us from our Sea Point studios is Khoi activist Bradley Van Sitters. The question of the Khoisan people's recognition as an indigenous population of South Africa is still not fully resolved. This despite what was said on 9th February 2010 by President Jacob Zuma when he said, and I quote, "It is important to remember that the Khoisan people were the most brutalized by colonialists who tried to make them extinct and undermine their language and identity. As a free democratic South Africa today," President Zuma continued, "we cannot ignore to correct the past." And like I said, my guest, Edward Mafadza from the CRL and Professor Pitika Ntuli. And from our Cape Town studios, Khoi activist Bradley Van Sitters. Bradley, let me start with you. Do you feel protected here in South Africa, 20 years of democracy?
Gangan siya botse ne tsugup ngatsko koida kais haroma itohoba netses ongha.
No, Bradley, we would have to use English.
Yes, no, I just thought to greet you and also to make an offering of prayer.
Okay.
It's in the Khoi language, it's a nama. And I thought it would be appropriate for me to also start in that way. Thank you very much for allowing me here in this space and also for opportunity to share my views.
Yes.
20 years into our newfound democracy has allowed us to express ourselves in various forms, in ways that previous political dispensations didn't allow our South Africans to express themselves, also to live themselves out freely, and also to identify themselves. This is also one of the main reasons why a group of Khoi and San Bushman activists took to the streets and walked 1,300 kilometers, and also to highlight the very concerns of the descendants of the first indigenous people of South Africa, the San Bushman and the Khoi. Mm-hmm. So this is also this walk was also in the footsteps of legendary Bushman leader, Homanisan leader, Count David Kruiper, who walked from Andriesville, from the Kalahari to the Cape. So we felt compelled also to commemorate our leader and to follow his footsteps, because he came to Cape Town to speak to Parliament for the similar reasons that we are what we did.
Okay.
So I hope that in short answered your question.
Okay. Prof, is the story of the Khoisan unique?
I don't think the story of the Khoisan is unique. It reflects the story of the first peoples across the world. And because they lived a life that was kind of communal and absolutely very peaceful, they were not geared towards fighting wars in South Africa until the migration actually of into the Bantus. Mm. So the people got disseminated in the battles between us for dominance and also for colonialism. Mm-hmm. In Australia, the Aborigines, and in South America. Mm-hmm. So there is one underlying culture of the fourth peoples that the world at the minute is kind of neglecting, out of which a lot could be learned.
Yes, but You see, I'm happy that you've given the examples of the Aborigines in Australia and perhaps looking also at the Red Indians in America. The history of the Red Indians, for instance, I mean, they have now been wiped out of the face of America. If you find them, it's just a little minute group which would meet, regularly, I guess, just to celebrate this or that event.
Yeah.
Could the Khoisans and the Khoi, or all the groups within the Khois be heading that way?
I don't think so. At least luckily in South Africa, we boast of having the best constitution. Our Bill of Rights protects everybody. The only missing thing with the Khoisan, the Kurana, the Griquas, and all of the other people, is that their language is not one of the official languages of the people.
Yes.
But other than that, they are treated just like anybody else. But their objection, of course, is that when the apartheid regime came, they said we are white and these people are Indian, these are Bantu. Anyone who was neither Indian or European or Bantu was grouped, as colored, because they did a bit like, irrespective of whatever cultural, demands actually kind of required. And see the predominance of what the colored people and the way the colored people were treated even better than black people. But the Khoi and the San who were still counted as colored, but they never actually benefited politically, even from the apartheid regime that favored colored.
Yes. Edward Mafata, do these people have a voice in your commission?
Yes, I must start by saying that the Commission for the Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Communities is a constitutional body to strengthen democracy. And when we promote and protect the rights of communities, we do not separate those communities that are within the country. We look at all of them. So they do have a voice in terms of our own mandate and in terms of our engagements and the programs that the Commission is currently pushing towards the communities of South Africa. So you will find that we are currently, especially starting from this April, we are having a project that we are calling it Diminished and Diminishing Heritage of Communities. And we are focusing, amongst other communities, to the Khoisan community, wherein we want to increase our engagement with them to get to know what their issues are, so that we, within our own mandate, we are able to put together the recommendations to government.
They have really told the world and South Africa what their issues are?
Yeah, they have told the world. They are known, but then we must begin to implement some of the things that they're actually talking about.
Where are you going to start?
For instance, we will tell you when we talk of the issues of diminished and diminishing heritage, when we talk to the Khoisan people, language is part of what we need to promote and protect. And now we need to get to see what is it that the Commission can begin to do to understand how they can be assisted in terms of their own languages. What are the challenges there? Because we need to even get down a little bit and get to understand what the challenges are. We have assigned now a commissioner, one of the commissioners, Commissioner Trollip, who is directly dedicated, working day in and day out with the Khoisan community councils, communities, so that we get to understand their issues in terms of trying to shape the direction on how we can address their issues in terms of legislations and so on and so forth, as we have a platform of putting recommendations to the relevant portfolio committees in Parliament that are, tasked to try and redress some of these past imbalances. Okay,
hold the thought there. When we return, I just want to start in Cape Town, because I think it is also important that we know how many people are we talking about here, Bradley, but you'll give me the answer only after the break. This question time, please don't go away.
You can't have a gut feeling about other people's gut feeling.
Ngaba has continued the tradition of passing stories onto the next generation using a platform that offers stories to a far more greater audience.
Zombie no go unless you tell them to go.
This is what the audiences all over the world knew Fela Kuti for.
Join Musam Khalifi on Afro Showbiz every Saturday at 19:30 CAT.
Are you fled to Canada?
Those that gets it.
No people.
Ik groei maar ergens een kapst. Ja, ik de paar bezig. Kom.
Welcome back. Edward Mafadza is the acting chief executive officer at the CRL Rights Commission. Professor Bitika Ntuli is also my guest. And from our Sea Point studio, he's a Khoi activist, Bradley Fan Sitters. Let's get to you down there in Cape Town. How many people are we talking about here who you represent?
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, I would like to maybe answer it in a different way. I would like to also just to echo some of the comments made earlier, because I felt it was actually really hitting home something that I was also trying to focus on. Which is on a South African coat of arms, is actually from the Kham people. Now, this is an unofficial language, actually it sprouts from an unofficial language family of South Africa, and owing to the reason that it's doesn't have an official status, none of the descendants of the Khoikhoi and the San Bushmen do have the privilege to mother tongue education. Now, this is something that falls very, we really feel strong about this. Mm-hmm. The 21st of February was the International Mother Language Day. And during our walk, we started on the 18th of February, which was also the new moon. It was a super new moon. So during the walk, we also focused on this day, the 21st of February, and we went to communities and spoke to communities around their mother tongue, and in fact, their ancestral mother tongue. The figures, I've dealt with institutes like PANSALT, or Pan-South African Language Board, which is responsible for the preservation, development, and the promotion of Khoikhoi and San languages.
Okay.
But unfortunately, there is not one Khoi-San language. So we're speaking about a language family specifically. Right. So the amount of people, we're looking at the vast areas of people all over the Northern Cape. You can still find people still speaking the language. During our walk, we went to Uppington, Karahais. I hope I say it correct. There we met also Oma Katerina Isso, who speaks It's a Southern Kalahari San Bushman language. Now, she teaches it in a yard. She has a small little, like a shack, and she teaches for kids the language.
Okay.
As I said, no one is afforded this mother tongue on the school. So to give you a number, it's going to be it's going to be difficult. But owing to the fact that most of colored people do have a direct link with the genetics of the Khoi and the San. But the point is really that is coming to the fore. It's the process of self-identification. So this is a process that has been forwarded by the United Nations Declaration of Indigenous People.
Yes.
And where the rights of indigenous communities are spelled out. Now, South Africa is a signatory to these rights. So we're hoping and we're waiting for the processes really to activate for us really to engage in this. And as a good point made earlier, this is an international thing that's happening with all First Indigenous communities all over the world.
Now, Bradley.
The revitalization of the culture is linked with the revitalization of these languages.
Okay, let's talk about this subject of colored. You say that you're not colored, am I correct?
Yeah, the colored is it's the K word. There was 3 K words in apartheid. Unfortunately, the colored word has still stuck around and for some political identity. But owing to the fact it actually falls very short to cultural identity of a lot of the people.
But would you then say that out of what in South Africa is called colored people, you have the Khoikhois and all the other, the Khoisans and the Ngams and the Griquas and all that?
Yes. Yeah, I usually make an example about this, and I say among the Black South Africans, you get Xhosas, you get Zulus, you get Tswanas, you get Vendas, you get so many different types of cultures. And even with the whites, you get the French, you get the English, you get the Spaniards, so many people. Unfortunately, for the brown people of this country, doesn't matter if they have some Malaysian, Indian, whatever descent. They are just being stigmatized and classified as colored.
Now, but what is a colored, Bradley? What is a colored? Because you only find this terminology in South Africa. I mean, you go to the US, you've got people who have married across racial lines, but they are not called coloreds.
Very good point. I'm very careful of using this word of mixed race. Mixed race is a term that I actually feel a little bit offended about, because as soon as we open the gaze for the term of mixed race, we're also accepting notions of pure races. And owing to the fact of the history teachers are very sharp lessons, very strong lessons in the past.
Okay.
So the idea of, I was speaking to Mohawk Indians in North America, and they actually have been dealing with the similar issues that people here, because they have been termed as being mixed. Okay. Because now, owing to the history that has taken place, they have also they've been assimilated with other neighboring groups. So the language is actually one way here for us.
Okay.
Where we can see how the indigenous people, the first indigenous, shared and also linked with other people like Xhosa, the cliques, was shared. In Afrikaans, there's a wealth of words that actually sprouts from the Khoikhoi and the San Bushmen.
Okay,
so it
Bradley?
does give us some indication how we connected with other people. Thank you very much.
All right,
Prof.
The Khoisan, it is said, the Khoisan peoples lost many of their land to claim, or rather, many of their claims to land which largely has never been restored to them. This is going to be quite a challenge because their claim goes back to pre-colonial era, and whereas the South African law is saying we only start from 1913.
I think not even counting 1913, the South African law on traditional leadership and disputes.
Yes.
If we had lost your territory through a conquest by another native group and not the colonialists, so you cannot claim your territory.
Yeah.
For instance, when you go to KwaZulu-Natal, the Mtetwas,
yes,
the Ndwandwes dominated the land before the Zulus came. But because they were overthrown by the Zulus, however long they claimed that kind of a land, it cannot exactly happen. That's actually what the law provides. But at the minute is that the Khoisan, the Nam, and all of the other people in South Africa's law, there is a land restitution in a law that they can claim. And as you have said, this other side of 1913.
Mm-hmm. Do you have capacity, Mr. Mofata, as a commission to get these injustices against, and let's just focus on the Khoikhois and not deal with others who may actually have a louder voice, to address their plight?
We do have the capacity through the legislations that governs our commission. It's very clear on what we're supposed to do as a commission in terms of serving these communities, including the Khoisan, taking into consideration also the Constitution of the Republic, as the professor indicated, the Chapter 2 Bill of Rights, wherein we are supposed to promote and protect the culture of different groupings in the country. As I am saying, we on daily basis do engage with the Khoisan community, community throughout the whole country, in different provinces. And in terms of all the programs that we do in our commission, Khoisan communities are part of everything that we do.
Do you think you're going to win?
It should be a very long battle, but we will never lose hope. South Africans are always positive to resolve the issues and challenges that are facing.
All the thought there. Prof wants to add something, but I'll only give him time after the break. This question time, please don't go away.
Zoom into Africa. This is Algeria. The president is Mr. Abdelaziz Bouteflika. Algeria got independent from France on 3 July 1914. The population is more than 36 million people. One of the major languages spoken is Arabic. Monetary unit is dinar.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. Today we're discussing the Khoi issue. Now, Prof, you wanted to add something here.
I was saying that although Edward's commission has got some kind of a capacity, but there's more capacity in cooperative and traditional affairs, COCTA, that deals with traditional affairs. For 5 years, I stayed in the so-called Nhlapo Commission.
Yes.
We encountered the Khoisan people who approached us and wanting to be declared their communities have their own territories, have their own amakosi, and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, our commission was not allowed actually to do that. But the grounds actually for that, lies there, and the law permits, them to apply, for their own, status and negotiate the land, in a sense, with government. So they may have it, but they don't have the legislative power that traditional affairs as a department in actually government has. It's got more powers, around that.
Let me get down to Cape Town. Is your community, Bradley, are you nomadic people?
Currently, I just want to say also, Cape Town also has a pre-colonial name, Hype, that I'm very proud of. And I would like the listeners also, to become familiar with this word.
What is it?
Hype, it means, we hype. It means veiled in clouds. And it's a very appropriate name, considering there's also a tablecloth of some sort over the mountain.
Okay.
We hype. And it's a very proud, yes, there are people, we are living in 2015, so we're living in a modern society. And the people really, that has been classified as being misclassified as being colored, has now, a lot of the people has come to the fore and said, listen, this classification is not appropriate for us. It might have had some political implications in the past, but right now, culturally, it's not fulfilling or satisfying us, right? So the communities have moved all around. There was great waves of migration. Cape Town was the first place where Europe actually invaded. Yeah. And this is the place of worst cultural devastation. And I like to say that it's where the colonial bomb dropped. Boom. So this is where the impact crater culturally is here, where you find people who has been classified as cultureless. That's why a lot of the colored people feel or have been told. Society mirrored this image that they don't have a culture, that their children don't have a language of their own, they don't have any land of their own. So it's always that they feel that they're sitting in the back of the line when it comes to culture. So this is the notion that we're trying to challenge, and also that we are dealing with right now, owing to the fact how the communities are living in Cape Town. So all over South Africa, doesn't matter which province, you will find descendants of the Khoikhoi. In fact, and some of the communities were even absorbed in neighboring communities around them, like among the Xhosas.
Okay.
You find people that has among them from the San and Khoikhoi descendants.
Okay.
So it's very interesting, really. So yes, we are nomadic in the history books, but we also today, owing to the situation how we're living now, yes. So our walk that we did, we tried to connect our communities and going to them
but now,
and speaking to them.
How are you linking your struggle with the struggle of the Khoikhois in Botswana, the Khoikhois in Namibia, in probably Angola as well?
Very good question. I must say, in Namibia, they have made a Nama an official language. It's the only, from the Khoikhoi and Bushman San language family, it's the only language from that language family that has been given in the whole SADC region official status. And you can see on schools, you find it, and on all levels of government.
Is it written?
It's written. You know, even on the coat of arms, must I remind you, it's written. That language is from the Khoi and Bushman language family. Right, from Kham language.
All right.
So the language is written, it's been standardized, you can pick up books from it, and it's there. Even in fact, in the Northern Cape, there was a program where they had teachers coming from Namibia and teaching the language.
All right.
Unfortunately, it was stopped in 2011.
Hold it there. As the commission, how do you then ensure that there's institutional memory to preserve the Khoikhois?
Yeah, we, like I'm saying, there are many ways of doing it. We are proposing the documentation of their language as one area where we think we can protect their heritage. And that we do through our research department.
Okay.
Of course, with limited resources. And we're also still seeking collaboration with other government departments, as he has actually mentioned, Professor.
Okay.
Like COCTA, PENSAP, and others that are actually tasked in terms of, issues of language, culture, and so on and so forth. So we collaboratively envisaging to work together, signing MOUs, and see how we can, as a collective, try and make sure that we've protected this heritage of the Khoisan people, be it culture, be it language, and that's what we do.
Prof, let me give you a final word here. Are we doing enough as a country? And I'm talking about South Africans amongst ourselves, to recognize that these are actually the owners of this land that we're occupying.
I think in terms of our own kind of legislation, they are covered. But what gives me, more hope, I had a recent conversation with the Minister of Arts and Culture, Nati Mteta, who's bringing up the issue of African cultural, renaissance.
Yes.
And his starting point, that the cultural renaissance is first understanding the Khoisan, people, put it onto the agenda so that we link actually our histories in a very organic, in a sense, and begin to redefine in ourselves. And that's where, again, the power to help the Khoisan people is developing through the very issues of culture, the issues of their own art, which is also part of the record that they are putting across.
Okay. Bradley, I'm going to come to you now. I want you to, whilst answering this question, firstly, how do I say what time is it? This is question time in your language.
Matiko kaiga igo. Matiko kaiga igo.
Okay. I will have to rehearse that a couple of times. But finally, in a few words, where to from here?
Oh, there's a very wise saying. Let us not rest in the struggle, for the struggle continues.
Okay.
And I also want to say, Lord, help us to unite for our heritage. And I want
you.
to say that we have people that are strong in line with this. With this work.
Thank you
so
very much,
support from all avenues would be welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That was question time for today. Question time at sabc.co.za is our email address at questiontime24. That's our Twitter handle. You can also follow me on Twitter at Mpotse. You have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.